Welcome to your friendly neighborhood historian, where we discuss just enough history to inform, intrigue, and entertain. I'm Bill Petro. The history of holiday fruitcake. You may be wondering, my friendly neighborhood historian is writing an article on fruitcake? Is he as nutty as a fruitcake? And therein begins our tale. Nutty as a fruitcake was first recorded in 1935, but the adjective nutty, meaning crazy or eccentric, goes back to 1821. I admit that I have been called eccentric, but more importantly, December 27th is National Fruitcake Day. But why wait till then? What is fruitcake? It's a pastry, bread, or cake made of nuts, dried or candied fruits, spices, and grain, optionally soaked in alcohol. There are many recipes. Since the 18th and 19th centuries, it was a special food for weddings or Christmas. What's the origin of fruitcake? While some historians trace fruitcake back to ancient Egypt as a food buried with the dead, it keeps for years. Fruitcake became popular in ancient Rome some 2,000 years ago when they served a cake called satura that was made of pomegranate seeds, raisins, pine nuts, and barley mash baked in a ring-shaped confection. During the Middle Ages, honey, spices, and candied fruit became popular ingredients. With the growth and geographical expansion of the British Empire following the 16th century, its colonies provided sugar. In the New World of the West Indies, cheap brown sugar also produced rum. Fruits and nuts were brought in from the Mediterranean area. In the 19th century, fruitcake made with butter became a traditional wedding cake in England. Both Princess Diana and Kate Middleton served fruitcakes at their weddings. Americans inherited this confection from the British and called it Christmas cakes or plum cakes. We tried to give it back, but note, this is not the same as figgy pudding. The latter is steamed for hours before serving, and the generous addition of alcohol is usually set on fire before presentation. How heartwarming. Fruitcake's high sugar concentration gives it moisture-stabilizing properties, making it resistant to mold and bacterium and effectively eternal. According to the Guinness Organization, at a food museum in Switzerland, a 4,000-year-old cake was found in an Egyptian tomb. Fruitcake in the media. How did fruitcake become a slur? How did it become the spumoni of the pastry world? Truman Capote's 1956 short story, A Christmas Memory, describes time spent with his eccentric cousin, who would commence fruitcake making when she deemed it proper fruitcake weather. Whiskey played a large part in the production of fruitcake, but it is perhaps the former host of The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson, who best determined fruitcake's place in the modern psyche. Deriding the loaf as a holiday reject, he once claimed that the worst gift is fruitcake. There is only one fruitcake in the entire world, and people keep sending it to each other. He was not the first to deride this seasonal loaf, but this anecdote persists. Fruitcakes around the world. Italy's dense, sweet and spicy panforte, literally strong bread, originated in the 13th century Tuscan town of Siena. Genoa's is denser and called pan dolce, or sweet bread. Milan has more of a bread loaf consistency, and it's lighter, but still includes candied fruit. Purino, which is my favorite Italian restaurant in South Kensington, London, hangs panettone in foil-wrapped packages from cords above the diners as decorations and advertisements, especially during Christmas. Germany's Stollen is a tapered loaf coated with melted butter and dusted with powdered sugar. It is more bread-like in consistency. It has been a Dresden delicacy since the 1400s and has its own annual Stollenfest. It was only after Pope Innocent VIII granted the use of butter in the 1400s, lifting the church regulation, that milk and butter became Stollen ingredients. There are Austrian and Dutch recipes as well. I get mine at a local Dutch bakery. Black cake in the British Caribbean islands is a boozy descendant of Britain's plum pudding, where the fruit is soaked in rum for months or even as long as a year. Yo-ho! Poland and Bulgaria have keks, a loaf-shaped sponge cake. When I was young, my family enjoyed Romanian kozonák during the holidays and weddings. Portugal has its boloré with a single fava bean inside each cake. Whoever gets the slice with the bean is supposed to buy the cake the next year. Vietnam has a fruitcake called Bon Bo Mut, but it's made for the Lunar New Year. If December 27th is National Fruitcake Day, less than a month later, it's the Great Fruitcake Toss Day. About 10 miles from me in nearby Manitou Springs, Colorado, since 1996, people have found an alternative to simply regifting their fruitcakes. It's called recycling. Every year, usually on the first Saturday in January, this year, though, on January 25th, 2025, Manitou Springs has a contest to see who can throw their fruitcakes the farthest and most accurately. People build various projectile machines, such as catapults, surgical tubing slingshots, and pneumatic cannons, or they just hurl the cakes by hand. You can even rent one if you don't bring your own. To compensate for all the lost food, everyone competing must donate to the local food bank. Anything they want except fruitcake. The Too Good to Toss Fruitcake Bake-Off allows local bakers to compete against each other for the coveted title of Fruitcake King or Queen, as determined by the community. Winners are based on making the best organic, non-GMO natural fruitcakes. They even have their own Facebook group. Thank you for listening. I'm Bill Petro, your friendly neighborhood historian. You can find more details on this topic and others on my website at billpetro.com.